fascinating. They're really beautiful. I didn't think they were beautiful when they first came. I thought that they were rather ugly in an interesting way. And they are, at the moment, providing me with the most inspiring subject. I would like to catch their spirit. I mean, physically, I like how they look. That is, their shapes, their forms, their color, this brilliant cheek. But I'd like to understand the essence of how these birds are. I have this strong sense of identifying with them, I guess, you know. Artists are birds in foreign countries. They seem very mysterious to me, and at the same time sad, because I know their history. After all, they've been taken from the wild, from where they live, where they belong, and they're in this totally strange environment. And I think no matter how good we are to them, they must be so dislocated, and they seem to be shy birds. So I think that they must suffer very much. Thinking about it really upsets me. They get crammed into little containers, which is a frightening situation for them. Just must be terrifying. And then there's the noise, the throbbing of the plane. If they come by boat, it's the same thing. Must be horrifying for these birds. I cannot imagine how terrible it must be for them. There was someone in Florida, people who I think are importers, and they were going to sell us some of the palms, and then it turned out that it was illegal what they had imported, and so the group was confiscated. Of course, they had to do something with the palms, so the government put them up for sale to qualified people. So we got palms. That's characteristic of my husband, Po Kim. He likes what is unusual. He likes flowers which are unusual. That's why he raised orchids. And so it would be with birds. So I know that they are valuable. I know that they are expensive. But I don't look at them that way. I don't care about what they cost. There goes the tongue. You see that? Hello, baby. Hello, baby. Hello, sweetie.
Although small by the standards of many aviculturists, Po Kim's collection contains some of the rarest birds of the parrot family. The whole collection is worth close on $100,000. It's so valuable because most of these birds cannot be legally exported from their country of origin, nor can they be legally imported into the United States. The major Mitchell's cockatoo occurs only in Australia, which bans the export of any native animal. This pair are worth up to $20,000. Here in New York, these sulphur-crested cockatoos will fetch about $3,000 each. Brazil also has a total ban on any wildlife trade, so this hyacinth macaw will command a price of $7,000 or $8,000. The Eclectus parrot, unusual in that the male is coloured quite differently from the female, comes from Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. Both countries prohibit its export. Although some of these birds are now bred in captivity, most are taken from the wild and started their lives a long way from the jungle of New York City.
I think that for a loft in Manhattan, we probably provide them with as decent a situation as they can get. I love being near them. I love observing them and living with them. They make life something quite beautiful. Life is in a big city like this, with all its tribulations, is very hard and can be quite distasteful, and they make it special. I'd be very interested to know where they come from. I don't know very much about them. I don't know if anybody does, excepting the people who trap them.
Saya Constantinus. Saya kan dari Papakula. Kan saya cari burung, Cockatoo raja. Kan dalam 1 tahun kan saya punya perkirakan kan 1 tahun saya akan dapat 10 ekor. Nah, yang putih saya perkirakan kan 1 tahun dapat 8 ekor. Nah, kakatua hitam harganya 10.000 1 ekor. Yang putihnya harga 5.000 1 ekor.
The birds which Constantinus sells for a few pounds each will eventually command a price of several £1,000s in Europe or the United States. This sounds like a poor deal for the hunter, but for many people in the developing world, the trade in wildlife forms an important part of their cash income. The villagers of Papakula have very little to offer by way of trade with the outside world. They fish a little and harvest coconuts and sago from the forests in the interior of the island. The Aru Islands are a small group off the west coast of Irian Jaya, which is the Indonesian half of Papua New Guinea. All the islands are densely forested, and these forests are the natural habitat for the island's valuable wildlife. Not just the black palm cockatoo, birds of paradise, Eclectus parrots and sulphur-crested cockatoos also fetch a good price if they can be caught. To transport the birds on their journey to Dobo, the capital of the island group, the hunters build tubes carefully constructed from coconut leaves. These simple cages will keep the birds quiet and prevent them from harming themselves as they might in a larger container. The black palm cockatoo is known in Indonesia as Cockatoo Raja, the king cockatoo. Unlike many cockatoos, it is a solitary bird. It rarely gathers in large groups, probably mates for life, and produces one young every 2 or 3 years. It has hardly ever been observed or studied in the wild. A very few birds are distributed over a wide area of largely uninhabited rainforest. They tend to occupy the higher branches of the very tallest trees. They're hard to find and harder to catch.
Saya mau jalan dari pagi untuk kan cari burung. Sementara di hutan saya akan ketemu satu ada pohon kayu. Burung 1 ekor, dia punya bekas tai ada. Maka saya langsung di bebek saya untuk menunggu malam. Serta sampai malam saya angkat lem dengan panah-panah kakatua raja. Saya berjalan sampai di pohon tadi aku lihat dengan siang. Maka saya sampaikan lihat begini kan ada. Dan saya persiapan angka anak panah untuk burung ini saya angkat balik lem sedikit. Kan saya taruh di panah-panah anak panah. Sampai di tempat duduk saya maka saya istirahat. Nanti habis istirahat, baru saya mulai kontak lampu saya di kepala. Sementara lampu menyala dan saya mulai hela pelang sampai kasih pas anak panah tengah dengan kakatua raja dengan saya lepas begini dengan dia jatuh.
In the Aru Islands, hunters still use the traditional bow and arrow to hunt fish and deer in the forest. The black palm is rarely seen by day and must be hunted at night by torchlight. They sleep at the very top of dead trees in the heart of the forest. These trees are recognized during the day by the ring of bird droppings around the base. The hunter must then select another nearby tree to climb to bring the bird within range of his resin-coated arrow. The special arrows which Constantinus uses for the black palm cockatoo are designed to stick to the bird so that it can't escape, but without causing it any harm. Although they're not disturbed by the hunter's torch, the birds are sensitive to the slightest sound or movement and must be approached in absolute silence. The bird may be perched as much as 100 feet up in the canopy. The hunter must hit the target first time. He has only one chance of a shot. The black palm cockatoo is an endangered species and protected by those countries where it occurs in the wild. That is, in the northern tip of Australia, Papua New Guinea, and some parts of Indonesia, such as the Aru Islands. All trade in the bird has been banned by those countries for more than 10 years, and it is also protected by international agreement. That and its remarkable appearance make it extremely desirable to the collector, and particularly valuable on the illegal international market. Despite their size, the palms are delicate birds and easily subject to trauma or disease. Many of them die in the course of the difficult journey around the world to their final destination. Unlike many cockatoos, they never properly adjust to captivity, nor do they easily form bonds with human beings, so they tend to make very poor pets. Many exotic birds are specialist feeders and adjust badly to captivity. The palm cockatoo's diet consists mainly of native nuts and fruit, and it has a preference for the fruit of the pandanus palm, from which it derives its name. Other birds, like the sulphur-crested cockatoo, are not so fussy. They will happily share the village's staple diet of sago or coconut, along with the other animals. Sulphur-crested cockatoos are gregarious by nature. They live in large flocks and, when captured, readily adjust to human contact. During the breeding season, they are taken from the nest as fledglings and hand-reared by the villagers. Although Indonesia allows a number of this species to be exported under a quota system, the practice of taking the young is strictly against the law. But having been raised by hand in close contact with human beings from an early age, these birds are likely to make better pets when they reach their final destination and are offered for sale in the pet shops of the Western world. The Aru Islands are in a remote part of the Indonesian archipelago. Contact with other parts of the country depends on occasional fishing boats or tramp steamers, which call at Dobo the island's capital. There is no airport and there are no roads. communication between the scattered communities of the various islands depends entirely on small boats. Although there are a number of small dugouts used to ferry the villagers to outlying houses or to gain access to the forest, Papakula only possesses one outboard motor, the property of the mayor and temporarily out of order. The outboard motors are still known affectionately as Johnsons. To make the journey to Dobo 3 or 4 hours away by fast outboard, the people here depend on traders from the town. Even then, the journey is expensive and most people in the village have never made it.
Iya.
Mau dijual?
Ya.
Berapa?
7.500.
7.500. Bisa kurang?
Bisa kurang.
2.500 bisa dia? 2.500 bisa?
Asal bisa.
Bapak mau harga pasti berapa?
Burung ini satu ekor.
Iya, harga pasti.
Ini masuk.
5.000?
Iya.
Tidak bisa kurang dari 5.000 lagi? 4.000? 4.000 bisa?
Iya. Bisa.
Bisa?
Iya.
Ada berapa ekor?
2 ekor.
2 ekor?
Iya.
Tunggu ya.
Iya, iya.
Yang lain ada?
Ada.
Coba.
Ada. 3 ekor.
Berapa ekor semua, Pak?
3 ekor.
3?
Iya.
Tidak ada yang lain lagi?
Iya. Tidak ada.
Yang orang lain punya tidak ada?
Tidak.
Ini mau dijual berapa satu ekor?
5.500 ekor.
5.500? 2.500 bisa?
Asal bisa.
Jadi harga yang pasti berapa?
3,5.
3,5?
Iya.
$3.500 satu ya?
Iya.
Sebentar ya.
Iya, iya.
Cuma 3 saja ya?
Iya.
Iya, 3. Ada uang 1.500 kembali.
Mas, ada burung cenderawasih.
Burung apa nih?
Burung cenderawasih. Mas.
Mau dijual?
Iya, dijual.
Coba lihat. Oh, ini kepulauannya rusak ini. Mau jual berapa nih?
Biasanya 40.
40?
Ya.
Oh, 40 tapi kepulauannya rusak ini. Bisa kurang sedikit?
Bisa.
Berapa?
Sudah 35 sudah.
35 sudah. Kalau mau 30 lah.
Ya.
Saya bayar.
Ya, oke.
Mau nggak?
Ya.
Ya. Terima kasih Bapak.
Ya, sama-sama.
Yang lain di darat ada nggak?
Enggak, enggak. Hanya satu ekor saja.
Ya, sudah selesai?
Ya.
Ya, kita mau berangkat lagi.
Ya.
Terima kasih Bapak.
Kembali.
Kita ke kampung sana.
Saya masuk ke belakang tanah dengan perahu. Perahunya pakai Johnson. Saya masuk untuk liburan ke kampung-kampung. Saya beli yang putih 1 ekor, biasanya 3,5, 5.000. Yang hitam biasanya 15, 12,5. Cendrawasih biasanya 30. Yang biru gini kayak gini biasanya 5.000, 3.000. Yang merah biasanya 2.500, 3.000. Biasanya kalau saya jual sama orang motor dari Surabaya. Kalau saya jual yang hitam bisa 20, yang putih bisa 17. Yang putih bisa 7.500. Kalau yang merah biru bisa 6.000, yang merah bisa 6.000. Saya juga pernah belayar ke Singapura bawa burung hitam. Kira-kira 300 ekor. Di sana saya jual 1 ekor 300.000. Ya, yang hitam. Yang putih saya jual 150. Saya ke Singapura dengan perahu buton. Saya berlayar dari Aru sampai ke Singapura kira-kira 1 bulan. Sampai di Singapura kita mendarat di pelabuhan Pasir Panjang. Sesudah itu ada toke dari Singapura, namanya Apo. Dia ke perahu, dia tawar burung sama kita. Terus kita tawar-menawar, kita jual dengan 300.000. Terus burungnya kita bongkar sama Apo.
In Indonesian waters, merchant seamen supplement their meagre income with a little bit of smuggling. This might be watches or TV sets out of Hong Kong or Singapore, Chinese porcelain from Sulawesi, or wildlife from Irian or Borneo. A tiger skin from Sumatra doubles its value on the short trip to Singapore. A live bird of paradise can be sold for $500, but it's likely to die on the way, so it's easier to carry a dead carcass, which will fetch at least $100 in Jakarta or Bangkok. Live birds are the most difficult cargo to carry. They must be kept alive through long weeks at sea, and they're more likely to attract the attention of the authorities. Not likely to lead to arrest or confiscation, but it might mean that a port official has to be paid off, and this will reduce the final profit. Seamen will often pool their money to buy valuable wildlife. In this boat alone, there were between 30 and 40 black palm cockatoos in cupboards and under floorboards, starting out on the journey to Singapore. Singapore has long been a staging post for live animals from Indonesia and Malaysia bound for the West. In recent years, legislation protecting endangered species has drastically reduced the wildlife trade. Comparatively small numbers of protected animals pass through the dealers' hands these days, but the prices paid in Europe or America for a bird such as the black palm cockatoo still offer tempting profits.
Singapore, being what it is in where it is, with the strategic position where it stands, I think we handle a lot of goods and services, and as well as wildlife. And these have been very good for a long period of time, many years ago. But with the pressure of conservation coming in, many of the animals have been taken out from the trade. It is known that the number of birds like palm cockatoos and other cockatoos, which are listed as endangered in Indonesia, are actually quite rampant, in the jungle. The trappers who originate from the country or the island where the birds are, trap the birds and supply to the collectors there. And the collectors will then supply to an exporter from there, and this exporter will bring the bird to the capital like Jakarta. There are also birds coming from the island by boat into Singapore. From Singapore, of course, we will then wholesale it to the pet shop here, or export it overseas to Europe, Middle East, America. I started this business about 15 years ago. And partly because with curiosity of the birds and animals, and partly because I was told it's a good business to get into. So that's how I started. Mainly for the money, really, But of course, as the years pass, I have cultivated more interest in this line of business.
There are not more than 200 or 300 major international wildlife dealers in the world. Most of them try to stay on the right side of the law, despite the temptations of the quick illegal profit. The bulk of their trade is a legitimate one, a wholesale trade in birds, mammals and reptiles. Terence Lowe is now one of the biggest dealers who operate out of Southeast Asia.
I don't figure myself as the Mr. Big, but we have been in this line of business for quite a long time, and we have established a certain reputation, a good reputation abroad. Perhaps that's why they call us, refer us in this way. But in terms of volume too, I would say we have also done a considerable business in Singapore. We are dealing with finches up to big birds, cockatoos and macaws, and Finches, hundreds of thousands perhaps, the finches and cockatoos, big birds, maybe in a year, 1,000, 2,000, that kind of figure. There's a lot of misconception attached to how people trap the bird, keep them, So, of course, there are blackheads in any trade. So, we can't blame the public, for having that misconception. They have always concentrated on the bad points of the trade, cruelty to the animals and, making profit out of the wildlife and things like that. But, of course, they have overlooked the positive aspect of the trade. But I cannot deny the fact that there have been bad heads in the trade where bad reputation have been created.
Where the laws prohibiting trade exist, there are people prepared to break them. Dealers argue that it is better to have a legal, monitored trade with a quota for each species rather than have an outright ban, because outright bans encourage the illegal trade and encourage the smugglers. But the reality is that whether a country allows the legal trade in some of its wildlife, such as Indonesia and most Southeast Asian countries, or has a total ban on the export of all native wildlife, as they have in most of the Amazon countries of South America, the illegal trade will still flourish. In most countries of the developing world, there is a regular traffic in live animals, trapped and sold out of their original habitat and traded on from hand to hand, making a little profit for the hunter and for each of the traders en route. Those animals which survive will find their way eventually to the markets of the big cities. In Colombia, endangered species like the three-toed sloth are even used in parades during carnival. The three-toed sloth survives in the wild on a very specialized diet. They are helpless when removed from their natural environment, unable even to walk on all fours. Their natural inclination is to hold on to a human being, and their very helplessness makes them lovable. But they're hard to keep alive in captivity. As pets, they will certainly die. In Colombia, the body responsible for controlling the illegal wildlife trade is Indonesia. Officials of Indonesia, like Fernando Duque, recognize that the trade has its roots in economic necessity.
El Instituto Colombiano para la Protección de los Recursos Naturales en Colombia es un instituto que fue creado hace aproximadamente 25 años y vela y administra por la protección de la vida silvestre y administra al mismo tiempo los parques nacionales en Colombia. La gran mayoría de la gente conoce realmente cuál es el problema del medio ambiente, conocen que están perjudicando cuando extraen huevos de tortuga, cuando se caza la babilla antes de que alcance su madurez. El pescador es consciente de lo que está haciendo, de que está haciendo un mal y de que posteriormente eso le va a representar problemas para él y para el país en general. Pero el problema es un problema económico, es muy difícil hacer educación ambiental cuando se tiene hambre, cuando no hay, cuando el problema, la prioridad uno es llenar el estómago. Es absolutamente imposible de que alguien se convenza a sí mismo, ¿no? Y de que sacrifique a sus hijos, a su esposa y a su familia en bien de la ecología. Entonces el Estado primero debe asumir una responsabilidad y es educar y darle educación completa y bienestar a todos los colombianos, y ahí sí puede hacer una campaña de educación ambiental. Antes cualquier tipo de campaña de educación ambiental es supremamente difícil de ejecutarla por esta razón.
CITES, the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species, has been in existence since 1975, and this has had a dramatic effect on the trade in live animals. International pressure from conservation groups, airline regulations controlling the caging and freighting conditions of live shipments, and a growing public awareness have also had a major impact. There has been a steady decline in the number of live animals being taken from the wild for the pet trade, for zoos, and for experimentation. Nevertheless, the collectors create a demand for the rarest species of animals, and as long as the market exists, there are people prepared to take the risk to supply it. There is still money to be made as a courier carrying live animals for a living. The risk of being caught is not great, and in a country like Colombia, a small bribe will solve most problems. Protected species are sold openly. The traders all have holding premises outside the town, and from there they can usually guarantee to get anything that's desired, from a baby puma to an anaconda. In Bogota or Barranquilla market, the traders admit that they pay a regular weekly fee for protection from the local police. Most of this trade is for local consumption only. An exotic pet is as desirable an object in Bogota or Mexico City as in New York or Paris. But a substantial number of animals are sold to foreign tourists or businessmen. The trader will usually oblige and explain the best way to get it out of the country.
Estos son guacamayas tricolores, en camada que tiene sus colores colombianos, jóvenes, baby. En la actualidad tienen unos 4 meses, 5 meses nacidas. Al ir botando esa pluma se ponen bellas. Entonces son los animales que se pueden enseñar a hablar, a educarlos como uno quiere, enseñarlos a manejar bicicleta. Se puede llevar un animal directamente como un regalo que le hicieron en su casa, de turismo, porque no lo está haciendo comercialmente, no se lo lleva comercialmente para su país. Entonces queda uno esto y lo lleva a su casa y lo cría, lo puede comprar en Endangered, le dan su permiso, porque no lleva cantidades para negocio. Un americano puede llevarse 3 pares de guacamayas sin ningún problema para su país. Cada año se pueden vender 50 pichones, que son los que se distribuyen en todo el país. Estos son los tití piel roja. Estos vienen de la región de Montería. Son cogidos con trampa. Son baratos. Bueno, a 12.000 pesos. Estos animales son, por eso es que le digo que son tan educados que uno le pone su cadenita y lo puede adaptar afuera. Criarlo pues, suelto y todo. O como si quieren sacar reproducción en cautiverio, se meten en jaulas. Estos animales se venden a 15 la pareja.
Also ich bin Goldschmied und lebe hier 30 Jahre, über 30 Jahre. Und ich komme manchmal hierher, weil die ein sehr schönes Angebot haben von Tieren. Und jetzt bin ich dabei, vielleicht hier diese Tultanes zu kaufen. Mal sehen, wie der Preis ist. Die Tultanes, die kommen aus den Llanos und aus dem Amazonasgebiet. Ne? Ist auch schwierig, die zu bekommen, nämlich die haben heute hier nur ein Paar. Manchmal haben die bis zu 6 Paaren hier. Nicht? Ja, also die Guacamayas, die kommen hier aus den Llanos. Nicht? Das ist also ein bisschen schwer, da rein heute die zu besorgen, weil die Vögel also sehr rar sind. Und ich nehme an, je nachdem kann man so ein Paar heute kaufen für umgerechnet 400-500 Mark. Also wenn man einen guten Freund hat, der Pilot ist oder was, der kann das schon mal mitnehmen. Aber im Moment ist es sehr schwierig, nicht? Durch den Artenschutz und so weiter ist es sehr schwierig, so Vögel rauszubekommen, nicht?
Although specialist collectors in the developed world create most of the demand for threatened and endangered species of animals, many of those which are taken from the wild are bought by thoughtless individuals, traveling businessmen or tourists who see a wild animal and are moved by pity or misplaced anthropomorphism. Many of these animals are bought for their decorative value or to impress. Some are sent back to Europe or the United States as prestige presents. It is not difficult to find airline staff or couriers who will smuggle a baby monkey or macaw through customs. Leticia in the south of Colombia is typical of all Amazon ports and a traditional center for smuggling and contraband of all kinds. Indonesia calculates that on every flight from Leticia, there are 2 or 3 small monkeys being smuggled out. These are often carried quite openly by passengers or airline staff, despite the regulations. Airport police and customs officials are easily bribed. Although they are underfinanced and understaffed, Colombia has in Indonesia an active and effective conservation body. But there are still up to 1,000 monkeys leaving Leticia by air each year. Leticia is just one port of exit from Amazonia. Despite the appeals to passengers and Indorenia's attempts at raising public awareness, baby birds and monkeys continue to leave every day hidden in coat pockets or carrier bags. Some couriers make a regular habit of bringing 1 or 2 animals with them each time they travel. They are even confident enough to take the monkey out of the bag during the flight. The Amazon River is 4,000 miles long. This seemingly infinite forest is being plundered for its resources at an alarming rate. The first casualty of the exploitation and the deforestation of Amazonia is the wildlife. The Amazon basin is one of the richest areas in the world in terms of variety of wildlife, and one of the most exploited. Of the hundreds of thousands of animals which are taken out each year, a few are lucky. A rare confiscation by Indonesia may give one of them a new lease of life.
El comercio con animales de la fauna silvestre y sus productos está totalmente prohibido. El Indonesia y algunas corporaciones regionales decomisan los productos de la fauna silvestre o los animales vivos, y en el caso específico de este Pelejo del Bajo, estaban vendiendo el animal vivo en el puerto de la ciudad. Entonces el decomiso se hizo el día de hoy en la mañana y nosotros estamos liberándolo en este momento en las cercanías del Parque Nacional Natural de Amacayacu, distante unos 60 kilómetros de Leticia por el río Amazonas.
Ramadan to Ramadan, 31 tigers were shot to the heart by one hunter and skinned with a razor blade. Stowed in the hull of an old fishing boat to be sold as a trope, a rug or a coat, and the hunter can't ever think twice because his children depend on the rice. From Belen to back again, tropical forest is slashed and burned by the acre and raised by the power sword. Till nothing that's living is safe or remote. The lizard is slit from its tail to its throat. So the north demands from the south, where you live direct from your hand to your mouth. Reptile, feline, amphibian, they suffer man's dominion. Raptor, equine, simian, they suffer man's dominion. But what it takes now can never replace. Not even the cheetah could ever keep pace. What we live alongside is just merchandise for those who don't know the value that are hot on the price. From Geelong to Genoa, snake is in fashion. Birds, eggs and butterfly wings raised to the power 10. Then lemurs and rhinos are just some footnote in a forgotten study somebody wrote. But their passing is no mystery, they're being stolen. Their passing, it's no mystery, they're being